Hey everyone, I'm 19, female, and I'm the older one of the two children in my house. Since my brother was born, I had become the mother figure in his life because my mom decided that she no longer wanted to be a parent. It was strange to see the shift in her personality. When my brother was born, I was 5 years old. I was barely old enough, and since she came home, my mom started teaching me how to take care of my brother. My earliest memories with my brother are changing his diaper, feeding him, bathing him, burping him, making sure he falls asleep on time, etc. It was strange being barely old enough and taking care of a child myself, but I still did it. I suppose the reason I did it was because I wanted to be relevant. I wanted to be a good daughter. I knew that my mom wanted a boy very badly. And when my mom found out she was pregnant, I was scared that they would replace me after my brother was born. While my father did his best to ease my anxiety, as I was just a child, my mother could not be bothered. In her eyes, since she found out that she was pregnant, my brother was all that mattered. So I thought if I helped her out as much as I could when it came to taking care of my brother, maybe she would realize I, too, am needed and would recognize I'm there as well. But all that I managed to do was take on the burden of being a second mother to my brother. I would have to come home from school and feed and clean my brother because my mother would leave for work, leaving my brother in his crib. And if she came home and found him dirty, all hell would break loose. I was not allowed to participate in after-school activities, go over to a friend's house, hang out, or do anything because if I was not around, who would take care of my brother? My father would pass a few comments on how I should not be the one taking care of my brother, but he never set his foot down, so I barely had anyone supporting me. When my brother started going to school, I thought I would have some time to myself, but no. I had to walk him to school, pick him up, go home, clean him up, make him food, make my food, and make sure he is up to date with everything in his studies and whatever work he had. I was to help him out with those. After doing all of those things, I would be able to have about an hour to myself before Mom came home. Once Mom came home, I would have to help her to cook dinner because my dad was a man of few words. When he came home, he preferred if everything was in order. And if something was out of order, instead of helping us out, my dad would turn to screaming at us. Because of that, I tried my best to help my mom to avoid being screamed at. Once I was done preparing dinner and eating dinner, I would have to clean up after everyone while my parents had family time with my brother. I would be slaving away in the kitchen, scrubbing the dishes clean and loading up the dishwasher correctly while my brother would be playing games with my parents and watching a movie. By the time I would be done, it would be quite late. Even if I wanted to join in, I would have so much work left for my class that I would simply skip out on the family time and go into my room. This was my schedule from when I was 14 until I was 16. I was anemic, chronically tired, exhausted, and stressed. When schools closed down thanks to COVID, I thought I would have some time to myself, but that did not happen. My mom and dad screamed at me and guilt-tripped me into waking up at 5 a.m. every morning to make breakfast for them, attend my classes, help with the chores around the house, work on the homework given, help my brother out with everything, and then I was allowed to rest. I was being forced to do everything around the house all the time because my parents were tired and depressed, and my brother deserved happy parents instead of cranky parents. They would sit and chat with him and laugh with him while they only screamed at me and verbally abused me. It was heartbreaking, to be honest. I tried not to let it get to me, but I would be lying if I said that this was not affecting me at all. During COVID, owing to TikTok, I came across a few videos on my FYP of TikTok and YouTube where I saw people talking about how emotionally abusive parents can be. I also came across the term parentification and the general burdens of being the oldest daughter of the family, and I realized that I was not alone. I reached out to some of those content creators and I started realizing that I was truly getting abused. As their content helped me realize my struggles, I thought I should do the same when it comes to me. I felt like maybe if I put my stories online, I would be able to help others like me feel less alone, because finding out I was not alone really helped me feel validated. Because of that, I started my social media account. I posted a few story times and explained how my family situation was. After some of my videos got a bit popular, one request started coming in more than I was expecting. My followers wanted to see my day and see the way my family treated me for real. I considered the request a few times. I did not want to cause any issues by recording my daily life, but at the same time, I wanted to document the blatant favoritism they had towards my brother. I was very conflicted, and after thinking about it for a whole week, I decided to do it. I spent a whole day sneakily recording the way my days went. It was like one of those a day in my life sort of videos. In the videos, you could clearly see that I was up at the crack of dawn doing chores around the house, cleaning everything and cooking food while my family was just chilling, having fun, and treating me like a slave. I made sure to mention that I do not blame my brother because he is barely 14, but that did not stop the commenters from having a few strong opinions about him. But overall, everyone accepted that I was indeed an abusive family and I would be so much better off out of that household. Having the support felt good, and having people tell me that the way I was treated, which I somewhere normalized until the start of COVID, was not normal at all, helped me a lot. What I did not foresee was my video reaching my extended family. See, my grandparents, my father's side, are the ones who own the property that we're currently staying on. I have a pretty decent relationship with my grandparents. With how tired I am, I do not have the energy to speak with most people, but I do my best to keep in touch with my grandparents. I never told them how my parents were treating me because I did not think anyone was able to help me. However, my grandparents found out about my video. One of my Nana's friends sent it to her. And because of that, now my grandparents do not want to give my father the house that we're living in as they had previously decided. From what I heard, my dad was to inherit the house we're living in when he turned 50. But now that they have found out how they have been treating me, my grandparents have threatened to disown my dad and give the house to me. I had no idea that this had happened until yesterday when my parents slammed open my bedroom door and screamed at me. I feel extremely shitty. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I did not think that my actions could affect them this way. My parents think I'm TA. My mom called me ungrateful, and Dad said it would be better if I packed my bags and leave by the end of the week. I do not know what I should do. What do I do, guys? Am I TA? Update 1. I called my grandparents and told them that Dad was kicking me out, so my grandparents booked me an Uber and got me to their place. I'm currently staying with them. After I had settled in, they asked me how long things like this had been going on, and I told them everything. My grandparents felt very guilty that they did not realize how I was being abused whenever they came over because they thought I was just being a helpful girl. I don't hold a grudge against them. I've been resting at their place for the past 4 days. My parents have not called me since I moved out. They did not know I was going over to my grandparents' house, so the thought that my parents don't care hurts me. I'm trying to console myself by thinking my grandparents told them I'm here, but I doubt it. Update 2. My mom called me after 10 days of me moving out, and all she said was I'm ungrateful for leaving her with my brother without letting her know what he likes and what he does not like. She said I'm cruel for making her feel so worthless by moving out when the house is a mess. Before I could say anything to defend myself, my mom hung up on me, and I do not know how I am to feel. I hate everything that is happening. Update 3. Hey everyone, I'm not going home again. My grandparents do not want me to go back to that abusive household. They also told me that I'll be the owner of the house that Dad was supposed to get once I turned 21. My dad is being written out of the will, which he did not take lightly. My mom and dad have tried to contact me for a while, but I have not picked up any of the calls. I feel like it's time they realize that they have to deal with the consequences of their actions instead of having me take care of everything. My grandparents have promised to pay for my college and help me with whatever I need, including therapy, because they feel guilty. I do not know how I should feel about it. I want to be happy, but I feel quite pitied. But it is a good thing that I do not have to worry about overworking myself so much. NTAOP, your parents have turned you into a parent, the responsible one, while they do not take responsibility for anything that they're meant to do. It's quite pathetic. Your parents are a classic example of people who should not be parents. Your parents suck, OP. NTA. They had it coming. Good on your grandparents for taking care of you. Next story. I'm 28, female. My husband's 32, male. Cousin, male, 36. Has lived in our basement suite for a few years, and we have always cut him a deal on rent. Last spring, we moved to a new house, and he came with us renting our two-bedroom basement suite for $1,150, no contract. For reference, a suite this new and large are going for $2,000 plus in our area. Prior to this, he was living in the one basement suite of our previous house for $800. We rented it out for $1,300 as soon as he moved out with us. My husband wants to charge him so little because he's family and he can't afford more. However, since the cousin has lived with us these past few years, he only works for the summer months and some of the fall months, probably a total of 4 to 5 months of the year, and goes on EI for the rest of the year without trying to look for a job. I understand he's family, but this kind of bothers me as he is a 36-year-old man that does not feel like working, and we're losing out on large rental income that could help with our bills. We are not well off by any means. We work very hard and have middle-class jobs. Another thing that bothers me is that my husband and I maintain our big, beautiful yard, and the cousin has even made comments to me how he is not responsible for helping with yard work, even though he spends a lot of time outside enjoying that yard, and I also never even asked him to help with yard work. You'd think for such a discounted rate he'd be willing to help out a bit. Again, we've never asked this of him. He also made statements to me in the past how he pays the mortgage for us, which is not nearly true. Additionally, now my younger sister, 21, got a job offer in our city, and coincidentally we will have that previous $1,300 basement suite for rent. I want to help her out by renting it cheaper. However, financially we can't offer much of a discounted rental rate, mostly due to my husband's cousin pretty much getting a $1,000 discount on rent each month. I don't want my little sister renting out a one-bedroom, $1,300 suite, while his 36-year-old adult cousin rents out a huge two-bedroom, $1,050 basement suite. Even if my sister doesn't move here, I want to increase his rent. So AITA, if I want to increase his rent by maybe like $200 each month? Again, there's no contract. Wondering what everyone's thoughts are on this. To add, the cousin is family to me and I do like him. I don't have anything personally against him. He is like a brother to my husband. But this is beside the fact that I feel like this is not financially responsible for various reasons. I have brought this up to my husband a few times, and it turns into a fight, and he refuses to see my perspective and sees the increasing rent as a monstrous, selfish, greedy thing to do. So this is why I wanted to see others' opinions on if I am in fact a delusional a-hole or not. NTA, remind your husband that he can't afford more by choice. You're charging him half the market rate, and what is he doing with that? Taking more time off work. Ask your husband what prevents the brother from still living with you when he's 60. What incentive does he have to leave? Don't bring up your sister at the same time. That is absolutely separate issue. You may want the space for your sister, but if you talk about that as your motive, it lets your husband deflect onto, you're just being selfish. Keep to the main point that your husband's brother needs to work year-round and support himself. NTA, he's taking advantage of you. Up his rent. I kind of disagree about the comment that said you should leave your sister out of it. Both of them are family, so they should both receive family rates equally, if you so choose to do a family rate, which you aren't obligated to at all. What I would do is identify the amount of money you really need to make from the two places combined. I know need is a little gray, but do the best you can. At the very least, you have to make the mortgages and taxes, and I wouldn't fault you for wanting to make a very small profit margin. Once you have the total amount, divide it by the number of bedrooms you're renting out. By the bedroom cost is standard in rental places, i.e., a two-bedroom always costs more than a one-bedroom in the same area and similar type places. Cousin should be paying double the sister if he has two-bedroom. If he complains, rent out the second bedroom in the basement to someone else, and cousin can share the space and only pay for one bedroom. Edit to add. When deciding the amount you need, make sure you include costs for home maintenance and emergencies too, in addition to mortgage and taxes. Next story. Me, 26, female, and my friend, 25, male, John, are both in the military. I just moved to a new post in December, and he and I met in January. We went on a 30-day training exercise together and just got back. We've only just started talking to each other less than 2 months ago. He tells people he's my gay best friend, but I only consider us acquaintances. He is a rank lower than me and has to live in the barracks, but I don't. When we got back, he said he lost his barracks key and doesn't have the means to get it that night. He said he can only get it the next Monday. We arrived on a weekend. He asked to stay with me for those days, and I said yes. When the weekday came, I drove him to work, and then he texted me at the end of the day to say he couldn't find his barracks manager and needs to come back to my place. He invited someone he's never met to my house. He woke me up at midnight to go pick up his friend that was also apparently locked out of his barracks room. He woke me up at 4 a.m. the next morning to take the friend back. John spent the entire week in my house, and I have had to drive him and this other guy everywhere. At the end of the week, he told me that he still hadn't found his barracks manager and that he will be spending the 4-day weekend at my house. I'm an introvert and I do not like people in my space for that long. I also do not have furniture besides a bed and chair, so I've been sleeping on the ground this whole time. After sleeping outside on the ground for 16 days during this exercise and on an uncomfortable cot the rest of the days, you can see how I might want my bed instead of the floor. I'm also doing online college, and classes started while he was with me, but I could not study or attend Zoom classes in the house because he's loud and is always interrupting me. I finally had enough and I booked a hotel room for the 4-day weekend. I lied and told him I was going out of town for the weekend. Somebody else we work with saw me in town and must have told him. He texted me and accused me of being a bad friend, claimed he only stayed because he didn't want me to be lonely over the 4 days and that he thought I enjoyed his company. He said I was a terrible person for lying about where I was. He put me on blast on our platoon group page and accused me of being fake. Multiple people from the group have texted me and are saying it was bad of me to leave him alone in the house, that I shouldn't have offered to let him stay with me if I was just going to abandon him, and that I shouldn't have lied to him about where I was. I think I might be the a-hole because I lied about where I was and because I left him by himself in my apartment all weekend, knowing he had no car to get around. I also think I have the right to want some peace and quiet and an actual bed after everything I went through the month prior. I'm bringing it to you, impartial people. AITA? He lied to you about having nowhere to stay, kept you from attending class, and demanded you provide housing for a friend and transportation. And then he claims you enjoyed his company so much you wanted to keep sleeping on your own floor. NTA, but I'd expose this lying liar and change the locks. NTA, and why are you going to a hotel instead of kicking him out? It's one thing to offer someone a place to spend the night because they've lost their key. It's another to be expected to drive them and their friend all over the place. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.